why be that way? You know?
By the way, how do you want to be introduced? Actually, matter of fact, we don't even need to do that. We'll kind of just hop right into it, okay?
Yeah, sure.
Sound good?
Sounds good.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ayoo Chill podcast. You already know the business. June in Jersey. And today, I got another guest for you. I'm not even going to give you a crazy introduction because I feel like you should do it yourself. So please take a couple seconds, minutes, and let the people know who you are.
Hey, y'all. My name is Ori Yekutiel. I am the drummer for SPITSHINE. I also drum for some other bands in the New Jersey area. I've been a freelance drummer for the better part of 15 years, playing in the New Jersey music scene. So, yeah.
Sick, dude. All right, well, I think we're just going to hop right into it here. Usually what I like to do, and especially since I just have you here today, we're going to kind of get into your journey and kind of work up until now, today, and then we'll kind of finish off the podcast with that. Sound good? All right, awesome. So tell me, where are you from originally?
I'm from Jerusalem originally. I was born in Jerusalem.
Oh, sick.
In 91, and my family moved to New Jersey in 95.
Oh, so you lived there for do you have any memories as a kid?
Yeah, I do. From being like a little toddler. I was there until I was about the age of 4, and I remember that time pretty well actually.
Mm-hmm. Can you share some memories that you remember?
I remember day school, like stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I remember just the little flashes like that, like day school. I remember the dog at my grandma's house and being in that toddler chair. Mm-hmm. Little things like that, like the field that we used to roll down and stuff like that. Little things like that.
Sick.
Very childhood memories.
So when did you first start getting introduced to music?
I was introduced to music properly when I started shuffling through my parents' CD collection. Probably when I was 6 or 7. Mm-hmm. They had many walls of CDs, and I was just fascinated by it. And they listened to American classic rock. In Israel, things at that time would get there a little bit later. Things were always a couple years behind. So they were still listening to classic rock and just 80s music and 70s music as if it was the most modern, hippest thing. And so I was definitely exposed to more of an older generation style of music as I was growing up before I kind of discovered my own generation's style. And so I always had a love for rock and roll, funk, dance music.
Yeah, sweet. So what was your first instrument that you ended up picking up?
The first instrument I picked up was the drums. I started with drums first, and it was one of those funny things where it's I think it was a Blink-182 CD that had come out, and it was me and my older brother and my best friend at the time and his best friend at the time. Mind you, we're in 4th or 5th grade, and we had just listened through the album, and we were all hopped up on sugar and candy, and we were wow, we want to do that. We want to be musicians and be rock stars and play punk rock. And I was yeah, let's do it. Let's form a band. And I have this very vivid memory of my brother being okay, we're going to form a band. I'll play guitar, or you play drums, you play bass, and you're going to play the other guitar and sing. And just on that whim of us just impromptu making that up on the spot, I was cool, I'll learn drums, and started taking drum lessons around the age of 10 at the Odi Bella in Teaneck, and just literally playing on pots and pans before I had a drum set, or even before I had a drum pad. I had drumsticks, and that was it. And then just practiced on pots and pans as a little kid, just driving my parents crazy until they were okay, enough with these pots and pans. We're going to get him a drum set. We're going to get him, he seems to enjoy this. I wasn't a sports kid. I didn't grow up with sports, and I wasn't enjoying sports in my childhood. And my parents saw that, and they recognized that in me at a young age. So they were okay, music is going to be his thing. Let's get him doing something musical and active. And around the age of 10 or 11, I think around 11 is when I started taking real drum lessons on a real drum set with, real big boy drumsticks and everything. And yeah, and that was about that was almost 20 years ago.
That's sick. So something I forgot to ask. So what part, when your parents left Jerusalem, what part of New Jersey did they end up staying at? And is that where you reside like now?
Oh, so when we first came from Israel, we had actually moved to, um, where was it? It was Kings Point. We had moved originally to Kings Point, Long Island, and we were like in this like literally like a shack, just like a temporary house in the back of somebody else's property, like up in like Gatsby country up there. Like everyone has like crazy properties. They have so much property. They have multiple houses on their property. So we were in like this like just small like house shack for like 6 months, as my dad was like traveling into New Jersey and into Manhattan, setting up his office, setting up our family home where I would grow up in. And then we moved from there. Once the house was ready, we moved to Tenafly, New Jersey, which is just a small, sleepy little town in the suburbs in northern Bergen County. Like real small, real sleepy, but really good place to raise kids.
And is that where you still like live today?
So my parents are still there. I've been trying to get them out of there for a long time. I've been living in Rutherford, New Jersey for the past 3 years, which has been incredible. It's been so nice to like just. I mean, I'm still like back in the suburbs, but like it's been nice to have my own space. And for 2 years, I was living with Kyle, who is the guitar player and singer, primary songwriter from SPITSHINE. And after the two of us had graduated college, we had formed the band, and we were. I was still living at home. He was living in Queens, and then I was living in the city. He had moved to another apartment, and we had both needed to move out of our spaces, and we kind of got to that point of being like, okay, let's get together, let's live together and do this band thing and get into the music scene even more. And all of our friends were in the area. We were close to the schools. We were close to all the different like highways around us that we needed to access different parts of New Jersey and access to the city and everything. And it was great. It still is great because it's like I can just branch out and get anywhere anytime I need to.
Yeah,
like here, I can get here in like 25 minutes. It literally took us like 25 minutes to get here, and it's super easy.
Yeah. Rutherford is a good area to live in. Actually, there's a lot of restaurants in Rutherford that I actually really enjoy. I really do enjoy. So tell me how it went from high school to then college. What did you go to college for? What did you study? And was music always the goal?
Music was definitely the goal when I was graduating high school. When I was graduating high school, I was pretty cocky, and I was like, I'm going to be a rock star. I'm going to go to college to be a rock star. And when I thought study music and study drumming, I thought you study how to become like a rock star. I get to college. I did my freshman year of college. I graduated high school in 2010 from Tenafly High School. I went to the University of Tampa, Florida. That's where I first pledged Phi Mu Alpha.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, in that first semester. And I met all those other musicians and the other music guys. And when I got there, I had that rude awakening of, oh, wait, school for music and like learning drums at school, that's not rock and roll. That's, classical, orchestra, marching, ensemble. It was totally not what I was expecting, but I was like, all right, let's do this. Let's roll with it and see, how far I can take this and what I can do here. Did that for about a year. And after that first year, I wasn't vibing with like the classical ensemble, kind of way of being. And the school itself is just a party school. It's the University of Tampa. It's just crazy down there. Like, and this is 2010.
You get to party out there at all?
And yeah, like maybe a little bit too much. And I was like, okay, I know my limits. Yeah. I know that I'm going to just be wasting. I mean, even at that age, I was 18 at the time. And even at 18 years old, I realized, oh no, I'm going to be here wasting my parents' money and like wasting my time just partying. And I saw how my peers at the time were also like, hey, I'm having a hard time getting a job. This is what my peers were saying. My peers who were older were saying, I'm having a hard time getting a job. I have to do more school. I have to take out more loans. The degree is worthless. And I was getting all this from the older guys who were about to graduate. And I said to myself, like, maybe a music degree isn't the right thing for me. And I made the hard call. I called my parents one day and I said, hey, I need to come home. And they said, come home, no problem. And I came home in 2011. I worked in Manhattan for a PR agency, and I was really into graphic design at the time. So I started doing like graphic design, social media marketing, online marketing in like 2011, 2012. And once I kind of like leveled out after having like a year of leaving college and dealing with all those emotions and kind of growing up a little bit, I reached the emotional and like the emotional maturity level to say I want to continue my education and I want to get a degree and I don't want to fall behind. Um, I grew up with like a big friend group who are my family and who I love very much, and it's like that's like good peer pressure. They're the kind of peers that I want to feel pressure by because they're like my friends, but I still like look up to them in that kind of way. So I didn't want to like fall behind, and because I wanted to stay with them as a friend group, and to this day I still do 10 years later, which is just so special and really meaningful to me. And
So at this point,
20
how did you end up in? Did you end up at William Patterson after?
so I
all
was
this?
at Bergen. So I decided
yeah,
I was ready.
Bergen.
I was ready for it to go back to school. I reached that emotional like maturity level.
Sweet.
How
old were you at this point?
2012. So I was 20 years old.
Cool.
Yeah, 20 years old, turning 21. Yeah, turning 20, turning 20, 21, something like that. And so I'm ready to go back to Bergen. I go into Bergen just doing like I'm just gonna get my associates, just very run of the middle. I still hadn't figured out what I wanted to do at that point.
Okay.
But I knew I wanted to get back to school. So I'm at Bergen. I start taking classes. I discover that there is a music department, a music building, and even though my degree at Bergen wasn't music, it was more like comms or gen ed. I said I wanted to just take as many music classes as possible. I said to myself, "You're gonna get a music education through this school, but without having to like sign up for like a music major or a music minor or anything like that." And that's exactly what I did. I took 18 credits each semester, and I took like maybe 4 to 6, 7 credits worth of normal classes. At the time, I had to do a little bit of catch up. So, humanities and maths and sciences, all those kind of like first entry level college classes. And then all the rest of my credits, like other dozen credits or whatever, I just put into like ensembles, music history, music appreciation. I took my first film class at the time. And so then at that point, that's when my like film and music career or music like interest, started to come to fruition, and I started to see that in myself and start to gain that confidence. And so I did that for 2.5 years at Bergen Community College. All the while I'm networking with people in the music department, playing gigs with the faculty at Bergen. I kind of got in with the faculty over there.
Sweet.
I would pester them, take notes, kids. Pester your music department. I would pester them so much for rehearsal times, and I would get into the studio so often, and I would always ask to sign out rehearsal rooms so often that I kind of got into like a shorthand with them. Just I would give them a head nod, and they'd be like, "Just get in there. Just you don't have to sign this sheet or whatever. Just get in there. Just get in there. Whatever anytime you see it free, just go in, Ori. We don't care." So I got on that like first name basis with them and got in with the faculty. Started playing in their bands. I just started getting a lot of recognition from different students because I was one of like maybe 3, 4 drummers, good drummers at the school. So, and I could play jazz and rock and pop. So I was very in demand at the time, and it worked out in my favor in that way. It was great. I got to meet a lot of people that I'm still friends with to this day, play a lot of music that I still love, and get to go play at cool places that, it took me places that I didn't expect at that time, at that age. And then in 2014, I kid you not, in my second to last semester at Bergen, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. So I figured, I was dating a girl at the time that was going to William Patterson, and she said, "Hey, I'm enjoying this communication track. Why don't you just look into it?" And I didn't know anything about communications or like as a degree or career path or anything. And but I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. I was my only other direction at the time was just music. I was so like I had the blinders on like this. I needed to kind of reach a point where I could like open up the blinders and see and see more things around the world, and be able to use like skills I'd gained, in the music scene between like organizing shows and making graphic designs for flyers, doing social media campaigns, organizing tours, organizing rehearsals, and just doing the management of a band. Mind you, between 2012 and 2015, I was playing in like eight or nine bands at a time, like, with schooling too. With school.
That's a lot.
And there was jazz bands, there was rock bands, there was the school ensembles. There was a lot, a lot of music.
So then I'm assuming you left Bergen, right? And you end up at William Patterson.
So I finally, in my last semester, I signed up for William Patterson, and I said, again, like on a whim, I was like, I'll go into communication, like I'll follow this communication track, and I'm really, really happy I did, because I ended up loving studying communication, and I used the communication track to focus in on film and on creating film and creating video and becoming a video producer. At the time, the communication track at William Patterson specifically was maybe a little bit more geared towards TV. And there was a lot of people that were using the facility and also the professors and kind of like the network to get more into the TV industry. One of those people is Kyle from the band too. He works for a news network.
Sweet.
And yeah, and it's there was a lot of other people that were doing more like TV and TV training, because in New York City, right over here, just a couple miles away from the school, it's the main hub. It's New York City. Like all your ABCs, NBC, CNN, like everyone's over there. So I saw that, but I didn't get it. It didn't pull me in. I was getting more pulled towards film. I was studying a lot more film at the time, watching a lot more film, and I started William Patterson in 2015, and by 2016, I was already in my second to last semester before graduating. I think that's around the time when we had met, something like that.
Yeah.
And like late 2016, and at that point, my professor said to me, my capstone professor, the professor who was like the head of the department and who was leading, kind of like directing me in like my final senior project. He said to me, all right, Ori, you need to make a film for your capstone project. Everyone needs to make some kind of film. It can be a documentary, it can be a drama, it can be whatever, as long as it's a film. And I was like, I don't think I want to make a film. And he's like, well, you have to do something. I'm like, and he's like, yeah. I was like, I don't see myself as a filmmaker. I don't see myself in that kind of way. I actually want to specialize. I want to specialize in editing. I love editing. And I got really into editing after many, many, many hours and days in those editing bays, those editing stations that we had at William Patterson. And I learned to love just sitting down and just doing the meticulous chopping and the meticulous work. And I just have the patience, I have the patience for that. I have the love for doing
Not
stuff
everybody
like that.
does.
Not everybody does.
Not everybody does.
And I like pride myself on that. And I found like a real love for that kind of work. And so I said to my professor, I'm going to do an editing capstone. I'm not going to make a film. I'm actually going to edit 3 other student films like a professional editor would do, and he was like, wow, okay, let's do it.
Sick.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So I reached out to 3 of my classmates in my capstone. And I think because the capstones are only like, a group of like 8 or 10 people, students.
I guess they were happy too, since they didn't have to edit.
Exactly. They were very stoked. They were like, "You're gonna edit it? Oh, thank you, please." Like, and yeah, it worked out perfectly in that way. I got to meet with, it was 2 guys and a girl, and each one of them had a very different film. One was a documentary, the other was a drama, and the last one was. It was a drama, but more narrative, I guess, in that kind of way. Like one of them was like very dramatic, and the other one was more narrative. But yeah, I got to work on 3 different projects, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. It was really cool. It really helped me like flex my chops, and it helped me realize like that, hey, Ori, you can do this. You can, you can do this professionally. You can make money from this. And I got my degree. In communications with a focus, or it says a concentration in media production. But in my head, I always said like a concentration in editing and like film editing and stuff like that, because that's where I put all my like skill points into. And so I graduated, had maybe a month of shenanigans, of summer shenanigans, and then I started job hunting. And my friend said to me, "Hey, like I'm leaving my job, but I need to be replaced. Would you mind just would you mind coming to check out? Like, because I think my friend said to me, I think you'd be a good fit for this company specifically, for this job."
And what was the job entailing?
It was exactly what I went to school for.
Yeah,
It was video production.
Okay, yeah.
It was filming, editing, audio engineering. It was some lighting, some camera work. It was just a little bit of everything. I got to get my hands in every department.
And just a quick question. Even though you're going through all this, film stuff and you were graduating, were you still playing like often while you were still in William Patterson?
Exactly. So during all of this, all these years between Bergen and William Patterson, I was always playing in, again, anywhere between like 7 to 8 different bands, freelance. Some bands were more like of my own than others. There were definitely bands that I gave like more priority to and just spent more time with and everything. And there were bands that just gigged more often and got work more often. And it was really like, school from, morning to afternoon. And then from evening until like late at night, just music, rehearsals, practicing at home, recording, gigging, being on the road, being in a bar, in a basement, at a dingy venue, at a beautiful venue, for everywhere from Maine to Florida. I made it as far west as Nashville, Tennessee. I got to play in Canada and Montreal and Toronto and everything.
While you were at college?
While at college, yeah. And I was really, really scrappy. I just had I knew that I just had to be scrappy. Like I had to just stretch every dollar and work extra hard to fit in school and to fit in music, to fit in time to sleep, time for girlfriends, time for friends. Mind you, while I'm in school, all my friends at this point the friends that I graduated with, the people that I spoke with at the beginning of our show here, they had already graduated college. So I have all these like external social pressures of like, hey, Ori, you're still in school, but we're all out in our professional lives now.
Yeah, that just sucks.
My friends moving into their first apartment, meeting new friends, like they're forming their own friend groups. They're moving into their respective cities. They're getting different jobs that are taking them different places. There was a wall starting to form between Ori that my friends had known, growing up and everything, and the new Ori who has all these friends in the music scene and is in this different college experience. And it was very different for them. It was very different for me. And I had to work on maintaining my relationships with them, and still do to this day, because I could be living in Brooklyn, I could live in Manhattan, I could be closer with my friends, but I choose to stay in New Jersey to have that connection to the music scene and to kind of like the access that I have to all the different places that I can get to in New Jersey and Manhattan. By now, all my friends that are still in Brooklyn, they don't have cars anymore. They can't escape the island. It's hard for them to get off the island.
That's wild.
So,
yeah,
you don't think about that. But in Jersey, like everyone's got a car, you can get anywhere. It's so easy. And even all these years, I've been able to meet people and go places and go to rehearsals here, go to rehearsals there, play shows here, like that, like on a whim, on my own time and in my own way. And a big part of that has been because I chose to stay in Jersey and stay connected, kind of like boots on the ground, at a moment's notice, just go play and go meet people and go, make music happen.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So while during all that college time, I was also still just like grinding music and grinding, different bands and everything. Fun.
Funny enough, I think it would be a shame if I didn't bring this up because, funny enough, I don't ever think I've talked about Phi Mu Alpha in the podcast ever. And I think...
Really?
Yeah.
You haven't ever had any of the other frat brothers on or anything?
I'm trying to think.
Am I the first Sinfonian that you've had on your podcast?
I think so.
Wow.
I think so. And honestly, like, I'm not too vocal, like, you know, that I am a Sinfonian. Like, you know, it comes here and there. And then obviously the experience.
I used to wear my jersey at the airport. I used to be that guy.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, of course.
I used to
You
be
know,
like,
and when I was in like, when I was in college, bro, like I had it on, and like, you know, I think at some point maybe I'd get like some tattoo. You know what I mean? Because it was a special part of my life, and you know, to a certain extent, like actually I went to our end of the semester, you know, ceremony that we always do.
This one or the semester?
Yeah, this past semester.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Cool.
funny enough, because I still have some friends in there, you know, like finishing up out there, and
cool.
It's interesting how music and it's always funny, like especially with Sinfonia, like it comes in and out of your life at random
It
points.
does. It really does at the most random times.
Yeah.
Like Dan C is now the bass player in SPITSHINE. I hadn't seen him or yourself for like 5 years, you know, and it happens, man. It's like, you know, it's like a college fraternity. It's a professional fraternity. So like, it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of known that, you know, you're going to lose touch with people here and there. But then, like you said, it comes up in weird times in our lives. It comes back.
Yeah. So how did it feel like? Because you said I didn't even know you pledged and crossed in Tampa.
Yes. 20 the PIMU chapter, which I don't think is around anymore. I think they shut down the PIMU chapter because mismanagement and just some drama probably. But PIMU chapter, class of 2010. Yeah.
Sick.
That's when I pledged and crossed. And in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have. I probably should not have pledged in my freshman year of college.
Hey, dude.
And that's probably, I think I'm mature enough to be able to say, like, that definitely contributed to the reasons that I ended up leaving school, because I was just, you know, I was pledging and not concentrating on schooling and partying and, you know, trying to, you know, I was an impressionable young kid, you know, just trying to like look up to guys and impress people. And, you know, when you're 18 years old, you're a mush. You're just all these different things that you've experienced in your life. You're not like a formed solid piece. You're just this mush.
Yeah. You know, funny enough, I actually pledged like my freshman year, first semester.
You also did that too?
Yeah. And it's crazy because like, you know, you go through the whole thing, and at the time the chapter William Patterson was kind of, I don't want to say like falling apart, but like, you know, it was very mismanaged.
It was mismanaged.
To anybody listening.
Yeah,
like, you know,
it was.
Sorry, it fucking was.
No, they
like,
know,
you know,
they know.
Yeah,
They know it was mismanaged.
Yeah,
it was really just because. Oh, we're spilling tea here on your show. It's because people didn't have enough incentive. It's not that the guys didn't care. We all cared about Sinfonia, and we all cared about the chapter. It's not that nobody cared. It's that we didn't have any incentives. There was no reward for our work, and reward being like that's the social aspect that came with Sinfonia. That was non-existent at William Patterson because Willie P. I don't know how it is now, but at the time it was a 60% commuter school. It's a university where 2/3 of the student body leave the university every day. You know, how can you? There's no social life that way. Yeah, there's social life when you know. I lived on campus. I lived in Heritage and Pioneer.
Oh wow,
I lived in both different buildings. I know, right? No, there was. If you know, you know. If you know, you know. You're triggered right now. You're like, oh, the flashbacks are all coming back.
Yeah.
So there was that social scene, but all of my time in Heritage and all of my time in Pioneer, very little of that was spent like in Sinfonia. It was like socializing with, you know, people outside of the fraternity.
Yeah. Like funny enough, you know, I just think it's crazy to like, you know, how it comes back. Like I'll never forget. Like there were like a moment, like even like I was at a street fair, I had my letters on. Old guy comes up to me, man. He's really old, cane and everything. He looks at my shirt and he's like, "You want to find me Alpha?" And I was like, and this is funny. I think this was like my freshman year, like right after I crossed, and I was over there with my letters, and I was just like, you know, saying like the secret, you know, like codes or whatever the hell.
I was gonna ask you, did he give you the formal handshake?
Yeah,
he gave you the secret formal handshake.
Yeah. And he was all like, I haven't seen this in years. And I was like, he's like, this means so much to me, right?
Handshake in like 30 years or something.
He was wilding, bro. And then he was just like, thank you, and I was like, oh shit, bro. Yeah, of course.
That happened to me at the airport, dude. You know, when I was just flying one day. I flew it in my letters, and some older gentleman, like I saw him see me from across the room, and I saw him. I saw him like literally like say to his wife and kids like, "I'll be right back," and like they because they were looking at me like, "Who is this person?" You know. But he came over and he was like, "Hey man, I'm Sinfonia too. Blah blah blah. You know, here's my class and this and that," and we did the handshake, and he was like, "Oh, you guys don't do the formal one," and I was like, No, we do the casual handshake."
Yeah,
If you know, you
dude.
know.
Yeah. It's great. So like, what was your like immediate reaction, kind of like when you went to the school and you found out that they had a chapter there?
Oh, I was stoked. I knew that my life was about to get much easier. I was like, "Oh, they have a Phi Mu Alpha chapter here, easy." I think I even looked it up before I got to William Patterson.
Sick.
Because I was looking up chapters in just the entire Northeast area, because I was using that as a networking conduit to get my bands into playing house shows and like frat house shows, and like college house basements, and the underground scene. And I was using that. I went up to like UMass and played with their chapter up there. I got my band, set up a show up there. And there was a chapter in Connecticut that we set up a show with, and I kind of used that, like, "Hey, I'm a Sinfonian too. Oh, you guys play punk music? Oh, let's merge, and so I knew William Patterson had a chapter. I contacted them I think literally on my first day of campus. I wore my letters to the cafe. What was that cafe called?
The Billy Bear Cafe?
No, the one on the one with the piano over there.
Oh,
Was it called like the Pioneer Cafe?
Man, we called it a Starbucks cafe. Like,
it had a name though, right? It had a name.
Yeah, it had a
didn't
name. It had a name. I don't freaking know.
So I wore my letters there, and I contacted one of the brothers, and I was like, "Hey, you'll see me in my letters, whatever." And John Hargrove came up to me, and we did the whole secret exchange thing. And I was like, and he was my first friend at William Patterson. He introduced me to everybody. And
Sick.
Yeah,
because he's my big.
Yeah, that's right.
Actually,
Shout
funny
out
enough,
to John Hargrove.
Yeah.
Sweetest guy, one of the sweetest person I've ever met.
He's actually you're actually not the first Symphonian. Then you're the first Symphonian who's had a full podcast.
But John was on the show
when we had the open house. I had a podcast running during the whole open house, so it was live, so people could just walk in and do their thing if they wanted to.
Did John pop in?
Yeah. John popped in for a bit with me, and we kind of just talked back and forth, and got to chat a little bit on cam. So it was fun for sure.
I love John Hargrove.
So before I interrupted your story with all this Symphonian stuff, you were telling me you left off saying that your friend had offered you a job that he was leaving.
Yeah,
and the job basically had to do with like editing. Film.
It was a job for a training company. This training company that specialized in blockchain training and like wealth market training for corporations. They needed a new video producer. He was their producer. He was leaving. He thought it would be good for me, and I just graduated. And he said to me, "Hey, come shadow me for a day and just see if you like it." And I was like, "Yeah, this will be great. It's a great opportunity to get my feet in the door." I get over there, hang out with him. I meet the boss. I shadow him. The boss is already like in love with me, and and the boss says like on the spot, he's like, "You're hired. Can you start on Monday?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And then I started that Monday and worked for that company for almost 3 years. And still to this day, that was in 2017. So, almost 5 years later, still to this is pretty much almost 5 years to the date. I still do, a little bit of work here and there for them whenever they need it.
Sweet.
Yeah, which is really, really sweet. I have a great relationship with them. And now I'm not working for that company anymore, but I am still working for a training department for a blockchain company. Technically, I work for myself because I own my own company.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, I started my own company when I got hired by my current client. They said to me, "We want to, bring you on as a freelance guy, but we need you to form an entity so we can pay you." And I was like, "Oh wait, that's right. I need to pay my own taxes now. I'm old enough." So I just on a whim just went on nj.gov and formed my own company and got my own LLC, my first LLC, like within 20 minutes. And it was like, I was like, wow, I just became a business owner. Cool. I wasn't a business owner before 20 minutes ago. Like,
Yeah,
and now
that's
I
how
own my own
kind of that
business.
shit works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's a trip. Like, I, started my own business before the age of
Yeah.
30. And I was like, cool, let's keep going with this. And got hired, and I got hired in August of 2020 to be like basically the full-time video production service for the training company that I currently work for. Now, August of 2020, I was unemployed from March to August. Like I was when the pandemic hit, from I took a little break from video editing, and I was working at an event space in Soho, running events and booking events and being like a program director. And that was just a little adventure I went on for between the editing jobs, a little professional adventure. And so the pandemic shut all that down. No events, obviously, no events in New York City. And so I was on unemployment from March until August, just doing the pandemic thing in lockdown. Trying to play as much music as I could. Me and Kyle were working on the songs that would eventually become our 2020 demos release, which we released last year. And I had also at that time I had joined a reggae band. Just on a whim. I was like, oh yeah, let me join a reggae band, because I knew at the time that like things were going to open up sooner or later, and I figured the first thing that would open up would be outdoor venues, like outdoor small local bar venues. And we got the Jersey Shore here, and I said to myself, what's better music to have on the Jersey Shore at like a bar than like some reggae, some nice chill vibes, like background music, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I'm still playing with those guys to this day, like 2 years later.
Sick.
Which is just crazy. I wouldn't think I would still be just jamming. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it's been a lot of fun. I got to like work on my own like development as a musician in a genre that I always loved, but I never like got like too deeply into. And then these past 2 years, like really let myself like explore that whole genre and freed myself up to it.
So I think what's funny of what the story so far is that I feel like it's not necessarily you're kind of like new age type musician life, where especially like for
that's a good narrative. You know what?
Yeah,
that's a great narrative.
I think for sure, because the whole thing before, especially with musicians, is like, you go for broke. You don't have any side hustles. Your main gig 24 hours a day is music, and somehow you make it work, and somehow you make it pay the bills, and you find couches to sleep on. You freaking go.
That's what I was doing. Yeah. I've literally slept on floors, like when I was on tour with bands here and there, like literally on the same floor that we had just been like ashing on and like spilling beer on at like a party at like 4 a.m. Like shit like that. Like,
but what's cool is that like,
scrappy, like I said.
Yeah, but you had the background and like not necessarily like security of like like your communications and film and doing that stuff as well. But what's interesting and guess leading up to my question is, although music was still a very important part of your life, what do you feel like had more of your focus, and what has most of your like dreams like in hand? Is it more on the film side because you enjoy it, or is it like music? And it's hard to pick between the two, but like it really depends on your goals. So like, which one do you feel like you lean towards more?
I should be leaning more towards film and editing because there's just a more stable career there.
Of course.
But in my heart of hearts, like I always lean towards music more. When I was in college, I was always leaning more towards music than school. When I've been working, I've always leaned more towards music. I joke, but it really is the truth that I work just to make enough money so I could just keep playing music.
That's
like
great.
It's really irresponsible. It's incredibly immature, and it's incredibly irresponsible. And I wouldn't recommend it to everyone. I wouldn't recommend this lifestyle to a lot of people. But I weirdly love it. I just do. I like being scrappy in that kind of way. I like I like fighting every day and working my ass off every day to, scrap together enough money and enough energy and enough motivation to get shit done and to progress my band and to progress my ambitions. And it's not the healthiest lifestyle, but I found a way to make it work for me because I am like, I'm not in the red right now, which I'm really happy about. I'm like making profits and happy, and my friends are happy, and the people seem to be enjoying the music and you know, coming out to shows and you know, giving us good reviews on the music and everything too. So it's like everything seems to be on the up and up, and but it wasn't always that way. So if you can handle the pressure, and if you think you're like a you know, like a resilient person, and if you can take shit and get knocked down, and you have, you know, if you have like the drive and the confidence and the motivation, you know, that's the one, you're the kind of person I would say like, hey, you might want to, you know, try to do music like, you know, like not even full time, just like you, almost like you said, like in a new age kind of way, because you have to be able to support yourself.
Yeah.
You know, like it's tough. It's really, really tough if you want to play with 4 or 5 different bands, but also work a day job and have a loving girlfriend or boyfriend or partner or whatever, and not just that, but also have a network of friends and peers and people to bounce off of, you know, and stay connected with your family. And it's a lot of communication, and that's it's something that I've had to work on my whole life, and it's still something that I'm working on because I you know, I want to succeed. I want to
Yeah,
I want to push it. I want to see how far I can take this. I feel like I've made it this far, and I want to just keep pushing.
Yeah,
pushing,
of course.
pushing,
That's
pushing.
that's the dream. And I
Yeah.
think what's interesting here is, like, you know, anybody could say that they are trying to push and be a great musician, but what are the goals and ambitions that you have for yourself? Like, are there any big goals that you're trying to chase, or is it still right now at the stage where it's like, as long as I'm playing music and making ends meet, I'm happy?
My goal like is I want to just be at the point where music is self-sufficient for me, where like I'm self-sufficient with just music. So you could almost say it as like music as your full-time job, but I don't know what that means for myself. I'm not putting myself in like a box and saying, okay, like one band or like one project will be your full-time job, or like one, like, you know, entity will be your full-time job. I'm trying to find a way of still participating in different projects with different people, and, you know, some of my own projects and projects of things that maybe I'll pick up freelance or like as a favor to a buddy. I really want to get all that to a point where like I can just float, you know, like not just float. Floating would be just making ends meet, but like really like thriving on just music. I'm not there yet, so I'm still working a day job, but I really like my day job, and I'm really lucky for that. I get to do what I love anyways, which is, like I said, video production and editing, and I get to do my work in a space that's like comfortable and secure. Like I have job security for sure, and in a market that has a lot of demand. You know, like it's nice to feel wanted.
Yeah.
When you're doing a job.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
it's
of
nice to
course.
feel in demand when you're doing a job. So I'm not at that. It's like I said, my goal is to have music just be like, you know, sustaining me. Like,
And then that is, you're open to as any means necessary when it comes to
Yeah.
that. There's nothing specific. I could respect that.
I
'cause,
want to
you know,
see what happens. I want to
Yeah.
see like where it could go, like what it could take me. Who knows? It might end up being TikTok. Mm-hmm. Who knows? You know?
Hey, you never know.
You know,
You
like
never
in my
know.
head 10 years ago, it was like, yeah, you're going to be up there drumming with like one band or whatever, and that will be your thing. But who knows? Like it could be anything. And I know in my heart that like if it's music, it'll make me happy. Whatever it ends up being.
Yeah. I think I'm the same way, dude. I'm the exact same way. Especially like, you know, when it came to this podcast and getting to know people, I knew from a very young age that no matter whatever I was going to do, it was going to involve music. It was going to involve, you know, either playing or being in and around musicians. You know, here we are at the studio with other musicians and talking to musicians.
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
really cool how things kind of come around like this.
It comes for a circle, no matter how you try to approach it. You know, as long as you're striving for it and trying to make it work and your heart's in it, I really don't see. You know, I was talking to someone the other week actually about like, what does failure look like to you? You know, what does success look like to you? And it's weird because I think we were conversating this off the camera. Like, I don't really care about money right now. You know, do I care about meeting ends meet? I mean, like, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you
know
gotta
what I
eat
mean?
and you gotta
Yeah, you
support your
gotta eat,
family
you
and
gotta support,
everything.
and but failure, it's like, all right, let's say I lose the studio. I was like, that would suck. You know what I mean? Let's say, like, I just lose pretty much everything. But, like, you're telling me, like, out of all the networking, and especially you've been talking about networking, and it's kind of a common theme throughout your college experience to ending
Yeah,
up at Bergen,
networking.
to ending up at William Patterson, and how you got gigs for your bands throughout college and up to finishing college. There has to be at least like 5 people within my life where I could just be like, hey, do you have a crowd check? I like, crash in for like a
Yeah.
week. And if you're talking about like a whole bunch of people, like a week or even a couple of days, there has to be a whole bunch of people out there who would be like, all right, yeah, until you get back up on your feet. And I'll just move
Yeah.
and move and move.
Well, we're lucky in that kind of way.
Yeah.
We've put in the work, and just to anybody listening, like, it's so important to put in the work for your friends and the people that you know and people in your network, and to not lose touch in that kind of way. And guess what? It's a constant battle. It's a constant thing you have to do. It doesn't always have to be a fight. You don't always have to think of it like so antagonistically in that kind of way, but it's something that requires practice and attention.
Yeah.
Requires attention.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
and so it pays off. Yeah. Like, I'm the same kind of way, where like failure to me doesn't mean not hitting like a certain streaming threshold, or like, even if I wasn't making any money and like lost my apartment and couldn't afford to like rent a rehearsal space, yeah, I could still find somewhere to crash, on somebody's couch. Somebody could spot me a bill. I'd get a job and get back on my feet regardless. And then as soon as I have money back in my pocket, I'm putting that right back into music. I'm gonna get my focus back and get back into doing what I love. Music is a funny thing like that. It's like, it's such a high. It's such a drug. It's a real
yeah.
high.
Yeah,
You
and I think-
your brain releases endorphins and releases dopamine and gets your serotonin running, and you're just like, you're zooted, like on music. You really are.
Yeah, and
You're zooted on
you
music,
get a different side of it as well, because you actually perform.
Drumming is it's a Bowflex machine. You know what I mean? It's arms, legs, it's your head, and that's just the start. Like, the arms, legs, and head, and then and your breathing and your posture, and then okay, so now you're playing, you're doing breathing, you're counting, you're doing posture. What if you need to communicate with your band members? You gotta mouth stuff. You gotta give them the eyes. You gotta do some kind of communication here while you're thinking, while you're moving. It's a full body workout, but not just like as a workout. It's a full body experience. Like, you have an experience, a melding of limbs and mind and creativity, and it's like, man, I don't do drugs, but it's like doing drugs. It's like you get such an explosion of just creativity. Like I said, like just on a science level, it's like, dopamine, serotonin, endorphins. Like, your body's rushing with them when you play a beat, and it feels good, and then you see other people's face and they're like, that feels good, and you're like, yeah, we're all feeling good together. And
hell yeah, dude.
Sync up with people,
Hell yeah. I mean, like, dude, like, shit. I mean, I do shrooms and some freaking weed, and I take getting high or going on a freaking journey and seeing my ancestors 10 out of 10 times over no, actually, sorry, I didn't mean that. I'd rather take performing 10 out of 10 times rather than like,
a high, like mushrooms or whatever.
Yeah, because like there's nothing like the kind of the energy of a room that just feeds you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I know.
And it's crazy because you can never get enough of it, and I think that's why saying it's a drug like is the best description for it, because literally like I mean, like, you see a heroin addict and you see how bad they get, and you're like, yo, how do you get like this? And they're like, I can't get enough. And it's like with music, it's like this, music
is a hell of a drug. It really is.
It is. It really
is, man.
It really is. So tell me, you've been performing so many times, so many places since college, talking to all these people. You've got to have some crazy stories of like, either a shit show or something that just went terribly wrong, or maybe something that went terribly well.
Luckily, things haven't gone terribly wrong. So I'm lucky on that. I play with people who have a good head on their shoulders and other bands that are usually pretty well leveled off, and we prepare and we do all our due diligence before and after every show to make sure that
Hey, I
shit goes
respect
right.
that. Not all
You
bands
know,
do
like
that. Not all bands do that.
I couldn't think off the top of my head of a situation where something went like wildly wrong.
How about Wildly Well? How about your favorite show?
My favorite show. Oh man. Um, Man, I don't know if it was my favorite show, but one of the biggest shows I played was opening for The Story So Far with uh, Turnstile, no, sorry, Turnover and Basement, and that was like at the Stone Pony in like 2015. So I'm like, what, 23 years old, opening for The Story So Far and all these other bands, big bands on tour, and there's 1,500 plus kids in the crowd, like all people my age and younger, and just a sea of faces. And I was just like, whoa, I want the rest of my life to be this. That was really like that moment of like this moment right now, like seeing this wall of people, big speakers, big room. Like I know obviously they weren't there to see us, like we're a local band, but that moment for a guy that grew up like playing music and wanting that kind of experience, it was a real like gratifying moment, and a moment of like like accomplishment, like self-accomplishment, and kind of saying like, okay, if you just keep working, you can have more moments like these. There's other bands that like bigger national touring acts that I've opened for, and every time that every time that we are lucky enough to share that same stage with them, whoever they may be, it's always like a check in my box of like okay, like keep doing what you're doing, Ori, because you've made it to this, you've checked this box, like just keep pushing, you're doing the right thing. Anytime I get into moments of doubt, like you just have to say to yourself, just keep pushing, and see where it can take you, and trust yourself, your bandmates, trust the people around you, because it's not just your bandmates. There's for example, as SPITSHINE, I was really excited to come talk to you about Spit. I hope you still have time, like on this podcast.
Dude,
Okay, because I was really hoping to talk to you about that, because right now we've reached a point where it's not just the band anymore. Me and Kyle have a very like close and special friendship through music, and it's brought us closer, and we want to be able to share like that, that feeling that we have, that respect and love that we have for each other, with everyone else in the band. Sorry, give me 1 second. Well, I'm getting all choked up talking about my love for Kyle.
Oh, good.
Yeah, don't forget I play in an emo band, and I love emo music. So me and Kyle have been friends for a long time, and we have a deep love and respect for each other. And a big part of that is our love and respect for not just the music we make together, but like each other's own music and musical abilities. And we want to be able to share that with everyone else in our band. And it's like taking that kind of approach to it, trying to create, to quote Vin Diesel, family, trying to create like a family, has really been like a much more rewarding experience than any freelance band I've ever played in ever. Because the people that we are now like surrounding ourselves with, like my band isn't just me and Kyle and Dan on bass, Emily on guitar, Sierra on vocals. It's Silas, who is helping us manage and who is helping us with just the in between of the band. Kyle's girlfriend Marla, who is our marketing manager. She makes all our TikToks and Instagram posts and has been making merch with us, for us. Kyle has literally been like hand designing and hand screen printing t-shirts, tote bags, and just going above and beyond to DIY merch, to make DIY merch.
Yeah.
And it's stuff like that we don't have the bandwidth to do alone. or I know I don't have the bandwidth to do alone. Like nobody can do it alone. Um, uh, it's a group of people. It's a group of people that takes a village. You know, it takes a group of people to make a business grow, and to make a band grow into a bit, to make it. You know, we want to take something that we literally started in Kyle's parents' basement, in my parents' basement. You know, we started this literally as underground and as DIY as you possibly could get, and we want to bring that up to the next level, and to the next level, to another level, and to bring everyone else along with us too.
So how did the formation of it started? Obviously, it started with you and Kyle sitting down and getting this started. When did the idea of SPITSHINE come to be?
So all this, you know, it's funny. All this like context of like me playing in the music scene and playing in different bands is good, because Kyle was doing the same thing too. Kyle was also playing in a couple of different bands, and playing in the same music scene. And so we would like run circles, like, you know, like this, in the same places, and then every once in a while our points would meet. You know, we would meet, and whether it was from we were at the same show, or it was a mutual friend that was like kind of getting us together, we'd have that moment of, and this is like in 2016, 2015, we'd have that moment of like, I know you, like I've seen you around, like what's up, like, you know, we have the same friends, we're into the same kind of shit. And that kept happening. And at one point, a band that I was playing with had played at the house that Kyle was running, like a show house at one point, and we played his show house. And, you know, he dug my style, I dug his. He said to me, he wanted to get a band together. We were both just really into the whole like emo, indie, punk thing. You know, the some people say math rock, some people say pop punk, some people say emo punk, some people say it's just alt, you know, alternative music or alternative punk.
Yeah.
I guess lately I've been saying alt. I've been saying like alternative punk, alternative music, because we do play a little bit of like indie, a little bit of emo, a little bit of rock, a little bit of math rock, punk, pop punk. So Kyle told me so me and Kyle had both just been getting into this style of music, seeing each other at the same shows of the bands that were influencing us. And he was like, hey man, I need a drummer. And I was like, hey man, I want to, you know, I'm looking for a guitarist and a songwriter to work with. And so Kyle had a couple of ideas, and I helped him kind of like flesh out those ideas and really like pull those ideas out. And that's always, and so that kind of like set the relationship that me and Kyle would have. This is it. So in 2017 is when we formed SPITSHINE, and we had a meeting with myself, Kyle, and our original bass player, Tom. And there was, I think at that point, Kyle's friend, Corey, had also joined us to play keyboard, maybe? I think it was maybe he was on keyboard. And Kyle's ex was even like, or not ex, but like ex, his girlfriend at the time was singing. She was like singing with us. And that was like the first rehearsal of SPITSHINE was that, you know, the three like actual original members, plus Corey, plus his girlfriend at the time.
So what year was this that the original SPITSHINE?
That was 2017. That was like August of 2017.
Oh, snap. All right, cool.
So me and Kyle had seen each other. At shows. We had worked on different projects together. We had both just graduated William Patterson, and we were both, you know, starting our professional careers. And we had both been looking to start a band, and you know, like emo, pop, punk, alternative band. And we had that first rehearsal. We played like 2 original songs that Kyle had kind of pieced together. And okay, so what I was trying to say was that Kyle and I kind of like formed a rapport of working together just through trial and error, just through having a lot of practices together. At that point, we were out of school and just working our normal job, so we were meeting like all the time. Like we were meeting at his parents' place in Franklin Lakes, I think probably like 3 times a week, and then 1 time or 2 times a week at my parents' place, because we were all still living at home at the time. And we, he would come in with ideas. The original bass player Tom would also have a couple of ideas and bring them in. And I was never much of a writer when it comes to like theory and lyrics and actual putting like chords on a guitar. I was always more of an editor. I always had that editor's mind and the editor's approach. And so Kyle would come to me with a song, and I'd say, "That's cool, but what if we tried it this way?" Or he would just say to me straight up, "Hey man, I have these 5 ideas, but we need to make these 5 ideas into one idea." And I was like, "I got you." And I'm just very quick to drum up in my head, what that end product would be. I can kind of like assemble a melody in my head really quickly, and assemble like a flow chart of parts. And a big part of that for me just comes down to understanding genre and understanding the tropes and cliches and trappings and all the repetitiveness of genre and what makes genre. I mean, we could have a whole philosophical discussion about genre on its own. But if you use genre as a tool, it can be your best friend. And it will help you write songs very quickly. And you won't have to be so stressed about how do I get this song out of my head and how do I get this done, because it's just a tool. Just you can use genre as a tool to just kind of express yourself. And then once you're ready to break away from that, then you could be as creative and do whatever you want, however you want, whenever you want. Genre is just a nice way of kind of putting it in a box and helping your mind organize those thoughts. So I had a really keen ear for genre when Kyle and I started writing together, and when Kyle would bring me ideas, and it got me excited to be kind of like the arranger, composer of the band.
Sweet.
And Kyle recognized that, and he knew that in like his head was very like spazzy, just coming up with licks and riffs and just trying to get them out of his head. And I would basically like catch all that and help him organize that into the songs that you hear on the records.
Nice. So
Yeah.
SPITSHINE then, I guess you obviously have different bass players. I guess different singer if it's an XXXXX love an X, right?
Oh, and at that first rehearsal, at that first rehearsal, we were like, "Oh, we got to come up with a band name." And we knew we wanted it to be one word or like a syllable, you know what I mean? Like SPITSHINE, like I know grammar people, they're like, it's actually spit shine is 2 consonants, like, or whatever. But yeah, we wanted it to be like just a something you just shoot out there and say.
Yeah.
We didn't want it to be like 5 different words. We wanted it to be like boom, and we wanted to do something like punk, so something gross and kind of like ugh, but also something like happy, not like joyful, but like something bright and uplifting to kind of like contrast that yucky, gross, dark place. We were exploring lyrics of decay and being downtrodden and being just kind of like in this really gross, weird place, and just like the themes of like sadness and the genre of emo music and everything. We were exploring that, and so we wanted a counterweight to that. So we came up with SPITSHINE. And I think I drew like a shoe with like a sun coming up behind the shoe, something silly, something silly like that. And we were like, okay, that's a good start. And that's what we stuck with. I'm sorry, I totally cut you off when you were asking the question.
No, you're fine, dude. I mean, it's how pods work.
Yeah, right.
So tell me about SPITSHINE today. Tell me about the goals, aspirations, SPITSHINE today, and how it has grown since.
So that first rehearsal where we had the keyboard player and the singer, that was just like a temporary thing. I think by the end of that rehearsal, we were like, okay, like the band is actually me, Kyle, and Tom, right? That's SPITSHINE. Drums, bass, guitar, and Kyle would sing as he plays guitar. And he played the rhythm parts, the lead parts, and up there singing. I can never tell Kyle enough how I think he's incredibly brave and just so talented for being able to put himself out there and be so vulnerable to everybody, and like singing about subject matter that cuts really deep into his heart. And man, I'm sorry, Kyle, we put you to work, man. We're torturing you. We're making you repeat these moments of like pain and suffering night after night after night at rehearsals, bringing up these old ideas of heartbreak and loss and regret. And I don't know, we do it because there's a catharsis to that at the end of each song. At the end of the day, we let out these emotions, and we have this tension and this build and this and this and this, and then we let it go, and you have like a catharsis. You have a release, right? So me, Kyle, and Tom started the band in 2017. We wrote an EP's worth of music, a half hour of music, so that we could play shows. I think we literally went into it being like, hey, we want to play shows. We want to play shows as fast as possible. We need to write anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes worth of music. Kyle had some ideas, Tom had some ideas, I had some ideas, and we all collaborated on getting our ideas in. We wrote our first EP, the Get Out of Bed EP, from fall, winter 2017 into the spring of 2018. 2018, we started playing our first shows in the spring. We played a lot of different shows in different places in Brooklyn, Manhattan, Jersey. We just tried to get around as much as possible during 2018. And by October, November 2018, we were like, okay, these songs are done. We're happy with them. We're ready to record them. So we recorded that first EP in 2018 in the fall winter.
Where'd you guys end up recording?
At Ponderosa Studios, in South Jersey. And then we put out the EP in the spring of 2019 on 420. And
sick.
And that was this guy's idea. And but we put out that first EP, got a good reception from our peers about it. People seemed to dig it, and we kept getting show offers, which we were happy to accept, and we kept going, kept pushing, kept trying to get out there. We started building our social media presence, and it started on Facebook, but we don't really use that anymore. So just Instagram now, and now just like TikTok.
Yeah,
a lot of TikTok, a lot of Instagram now. 2018, we recorded 2018. I'm sorry, we recorded. I said that we recorded 2018. We released We released in the spring. We released it in the spring of 2019. Of that 420, played out, got out there, put ourselves out to the scene, the local shows. Played all throughout 2019. I think the last show that we played was February 2nd of 2020. The last show we played before the pandemic. Sorry. The last show we played before the pandemic was February 2nd or 7th, I think it was, of 2020. And between the time that we had released the Get Out of Bed EP and between that and between our last show before the pandemic, we had written a whole album. We had written literally 10 songs, a full album's worth of music that we were going to release in a two-parter EP, like a one-part EP and a two-part EP. And it would have been called, it was supposed to be called, the first part was supposed to be called Take Your Meds, and then the second was supposed to be called Feel Better. And so you put them together, it's Take Your Meds, Feel Better. That's now the full name of the EP that we're going to release in just a couple short weeks.
Sick. So talk to me about that EP then.
So that EP started its life as songs that we had written just by being on the ground. We put our boots on the ground. We played shows. We played the underground. We played all these DIY things. And we heard the sound that other people were making, and we heard our own sound evolving. And we would hear a band do something cool, and we would go, man, look at that sounds so cool. Not only does that sound cool, but look at the way that it's making everyone else go crazy too. So let's do that. Let's do more of that. And we started to get inspired by what we would hear and see being out at shows and being in the scene, which there's like no substitute for. There's no substitute for being in the scene and going to shows and learning that way. I was at a hardcore show last night, and it's just one of those things where I was like, I want to go out. I want to go out to the scene. I want to go see people, and I want to go see bands and put myself out there. And lo and behold, I ended up networking and meeting with people that I hadn't seen for a little bit, and like I said before at the beginning of the podcast, working on those relationships and maintaining those relationships and making sure that those like networking opportunities are still there and that people still know your name, you know, that so that when you need them, you can call upon those people. We started hearing and seeing all this cool shit that was happening in the scene. We started writing a bunch of songs, a batch of 10 songs. And by February, we were ready to start demoing the songs. So we had decided, So we had decided that we wanted to demo the songs. We wanted to demo the songs before we go into a studio to record them, because we wanted this EP to be, or the album, we wanted the album to be bigger, better, fuller, more expensive too. So we said, hey man, before we drop a whole bunch of money on a really expensive album, let's make sure that we can play everything on this album note for note. Make sure we play the album note for note and play it like perfectly. And a demo will help us hear back the parts, you know, that we have, and it'll help us realize what we're missing or what we can cut or what needs work. And so like literally as underground and as DIY as you can get, we went underground, you know, into a basement with our DIY, with our own microphones, our own cables, our own PA system, our own recording on my like 2015 MacBook or something like that.
Sick.
In February of 2020. And we self-recorded our own demos. We demoed the entire album in 2 days. And again, that was February. And we sat on these songs for a little bit. We showed a couple of our friends. We did some mixes and some remixes on our own. And then the pandemic hit.
Yep.
And then everything stopped. And then everything was just done. There was no shows. There was no recording. There was no nothing. There wasn't even hanging out with each other. At the time, that's when me and Kyle started living with each other and in Rutherford. Tom was already living in Rutherford, and we would be partying at his place all the time. So we just said, hey, we love coming over here to Rutherford, and ooh la la, all the venues and all the highways and everything that we want to access is in this Rutherford area. So we had decided to move to Rutherford in the summer of 2019. May of 2019 is when I moved to Rutherford. And then me and Kyle were in lockdown. Mm-hmm. We were in lockdown for like, you know, a solid like 6 months of real lockdown.
Yeah, lockdown I think was tough on like everybody, man. I mean, dealing with that time period, such an uneasiness and unknowing of like what the future was going to be, how everything was going to go back to normal, when we get to play live shows again.
We didn't know when, but we knew that it would happen. We had hope. We wouldn't let ourselves like lose the hope and lose the faith. And so we kept trucking on. Like and again, it made it easier that me and Kyle were living together, because I could always just like, you know, knock on his door and be like, hey Kyle, how do the mixes sound? Or like he would come knock on my door and be like, hey, what do you think about this guitar idea? And we started building the record. We took those demos and started chopping them up and started like just perfecting the edit. We started working on them in the edit in post, you know, and we polished that turd as best as we could. You know, we really it's not a diamond, but you know, we made that you know, demo, those crappy recordings, as best, we made them sound as best as we possibly could. Kyle re-recorded parts in his room. We brought in our friend Sierra, who expressed interest in singing with us. She like dug our music, and you know, we're all friends and everything. So we were like, hey, you want to come sing with us? And she was like, yeah, let's do it. And she had no prior singing experience. So it was her first time joining a band and singing and everything. And we just worked with her. We were like, hey, you know, she's just a natural singer. She's got natural talent. And we recognized that, and we were like, yo, your voice sounds awesome on this. So we recorded her singing on the demos. Kyle recorded guitar for the demos. He recorded new bass parts for the demos. At this point, our bass player, Tom, had decided to focus on his career. So he moved out of the state and partied with the band. And, you know, we wish him well. Everything's all good. We love Tom. And so Kyle and I were without a bass player for the better part of like probably better part of like 8 months, almost a year, basically from like May or maybe July, I think it was. Maybe it was like June or July of 2020 until like January of 2021. So like about 6 months, 6 to 7 months. We were without a bass player, but me and Kyle and now Sierra, we're all still working on these songs. And so eventually we decided that we would just release something. We knew we had to release something. Things weren't opening up fast enough, and we were just starting to get a little bit of cabin fever. And we knew we just had to get stuff out there because we saw other bands starting to release stuff, and we knew that we didn't have like the capital at the time, or like the we didn't have a bass player, so we couldn't get into a studio. You know what I mean? Like we couldn't go record new stuff, and so we were just like, fuck it. Like we're just gonna release the demos that we had worked on. We're gonna pick the best 4 or 5 and put that into an EP that we eventually just called the 2020 Demos.
Yeah.
EP. And we released that. We had it remixed, but also mastered by Backroom Studios, and they did a great job, a fantastic job of remixing and mastering the album. We're super happy with it. Thank you, Scott. And people seem to dig it too, because we put it out and started getting a good reception, and we started getting show offers like on just some demos, and people saying to us, hey, we're not open yet, but when we're open, we'd love to have you guys come back. Like we really dig what's happening here. And around that same time, or I guess technically right before we released those demos, we had picked up our now second bass player, Grady. Grady, happy birthday, Grady.
Happy birthday, Grady.
Who knows when this will air,
Yeah.
but today is his birthday. Happy
sick,
birthday, Grady.
sick. Happy belated.
Love you, Grady. And he had moved down from Albany. He was to go work at a lab for chemical engineering and biochemical engineering and everything. And so they, which is New Jersey is just very, very big for. And so they set him up over here. He saw that I had posted in the like NJ musicians group, just saying like, hey, emo punk band looking for bass player, hit me up. And he was like, that's exactly what I want to do. We had a rehearsal with him. There was another bass player we had tried out. It just didn't work out with the other bass player, but we ended up going with Grady. And within just a very, very short amount of time, he became like our family member, and we became really, really close with him, and just we love Grady. Everybody loves Grady. He's a great guy. He's just a great, great guy. He's warm and happy and wholesome and has a great attitude about everything, and he's a really good bass player too.
Yeah, I mean that's important.
Yeah.
So tell me, hearing you speak about SPITSHINE, I feel like out of everything you've talked about, the biggest things you've been passionate about has definitely been music. Obviously, has been a big part of your life. Obviously, the film side, the editing side, and you did talk about the reggae band for a bit, but it seems like this project specifically seems to have something personal to do with you.
Oh yeah, this is like my original project. Like this is it's like me and Kyle's like original band. I haven't had many original bands in my life, and this is definitely my original project. It's like my outlet. It's Kyle's outlet. I don't mean to be ignoring the other members of our band. It's just that like they're new to the band. Like Grady's no longer in the band. He got relocated by his job. He was with us. Grady was with us for a year playing with us. He recorded with us. The new EP that we're about to release is, features Grady on the entire EP or album, playing bass. And I kid you not, maybe a month after we finished recording that album, his job told him, hey, we got to move you to San Diego.
Oof.
And he had to take it, obviously.
Yeah.
Like he's on a career path, and I wouldn't ask anybody to stay for a local band, So it's all a long way of saying that now we have a new bass player. He's new. Our second guitar player, second guitarist, second guitar that we just added. She's new. Sierra's been with us for about a year and a half now. Wow, awesome. But she hasn't like written anything with us yet. So this is really like me and Kyle's like band. You know, like this is our thing that we got going on.
So
And so
what?
that's why it's so personal. That's
Yeah,
why it's so
no, of
personal.
course, of course. And but I'm wondering. So now that it's been years now, I mean, like you're talking. You said you started this band what year again?
2017.
Like
So it's been
2017 around there.
this will be the
Fifth
fifth
years.
year of SPITSHINE as a band. Yeah, what a trip.
Although I've heard your philosophy before about music and doing this for fun and everything, is there any like you're saying now you're making TikToks, you're doing merch, you have a lot of DIY stuff going on. Like again, and it's okay if the answer is just doing it for fun, but like what are now some like goals and aspirations now since this is personal. When something is not yours, you know what I mean? And not I'm saying not yours, but like when you're playing in all these other bands, it's all fun, it's great.
Yeah, I know what you're driving at.
But this is your child, you
Yeah.
know? Like what would you like your child to do?
I want SPITSHINE to go to the next level. I want us to reach a wider audience, to play bigger stages for more people. And it really just comes from a place of like, I want to be able to share this with people. I want to be able to share my like love and passion for this style of music, for the lyrics that we're talking about, for the message we're trying to put out there, for the energy that we put on in our live shows. I want to share that with people. If the band makes more money, if we get paid more, that's great. That's just more money that we can put into the band to keep propelling the band to move forward. But I really just want to share with people. I want to show people a good time. I want to entertain people. I know there's people that like this music, and I know that there's people that love this type of music, like not SPITSHINE specifically, but like love the genre of like emotional, raw, indie, emo, alternative, pop, punk, math, rock, everything in between, alt, everything in between. I know there's a lot of people that love it. It's not what you'll hear on the radio all the time, but it's like what people will put on when they're just kind of hanging out, and when you talk shop about music sometimes. So I'm trying to say to people, we have what you want. We're doing it. We like doing it too. And we want to share it with you. We want to have fun. We want to, we want you to have fun.
And so what are the biggest things now that you feel you're doing differently, especially since the beginning of the band, that is going to propel you to that next level that you're seeking?
Marketing. A big thing of it is just marketing. We're doing a lot more marketing than we used to. Before, the band was just me, Kyle, and Tom, and we were working, we had just finished school, so we were like just insecure about where we were in our lives. We were concentrating on relationships with friends and girlfriends and this and that, and we were trying out different things. Now, myself and Kyle just feel more confident and more, lived in and more stable in our lives, and we feel that we can, we don't have to like stress as much about the little things, because we feel like we can manage those little things. So now the next like step for the band is marketing and just trying to reach as wide of an audience as possible. That includes doing podcasts and doing TikToks and Instagram stories and reels and posts. And I had a personal hiatus from TikTok just because I have a touch and go relationship with social media. I'm not the type of person that posts every meal on my social media. I try to make like what I put out into the world more personal and wholesome. And so that means more limited, or that's what it used to mean for me. So, but my relationship with social media is changing as I'm changing. And I like change. I really like change. I like going through changes and experiencing change. And it's exciting for me to change. It's scary, but that's part of the excitement, is that I wouldn't have known this if it wasn't for music, if it wasn't for drumming specifically. When I feel butterflies in my stomach and I feel nervous and I feel that like weird sensation, I found a way to channel that, to churn my stomach and to channel that into excitement and energy. And all this change is scary and it's all happening so fast, but I am stoked about it. I am very, very excited, and I want it to happen. I want to see what comes next and what what the next chapter is, because I've been experiencing the now, the here and the now, and things have been, you know, uh, give and take a little bit, a couple steps forward, a step backwards. It was tough for us during the pandemic. We were on such a forward momentum with the demos and with the new songs. We felt unstoppable. And then pandemic, bass player leaves, we're in lockdown, we can't even get into a studio. But then, so that was a step back, but then a step forward. We got a new bass player. We have more songs. We have more people joining the band. And then our bass player leaves again, or gets relocated that time around. So that's another step backwards. But then another step forward, we added Emily Case, who is an incredible musician. She plays so many instruments. She plays like guitar, bass, keyboard. She sings. She is a super, super talent powerhouse.
And she's from Willie P too, right?
She's also from Willie P.
I believe.
That's right.
I believe I've seen.
You
her
know
around
Emily
for
Case,
sure.
yeah,
I know
yeah.
Emily, yes.
She's a cool cat, man.
Yeah,
she's a real
really
cool
dope.
cat. She's friends with Kyle's girlfriend, and she had expressed interest in playing with the band, and she had expressed interest about joining us to play second guitar, and we were like, yeah, cool, that'd be great. We said, yeah, cool, that'd be great. And so she came to see us twice with Grady before he got relocated. And a week before she was supposed to join us on second guitar, Grady got relocated across the country. We had shows booked, and we said to Emily, please, 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 can you play bass for us just for a couple shows? And she said, I don't play bass, but sure, I'll learn how to play bass to play with you guys. And we were like, like the heavens parted. And we were like, oh my God, thank you so much, Emily.
That's destiny right there, man. That's destiny.
It really was. It was incredible. She saved us.
And I assume she killed it?
Yeah. Absolutely crushed it. And she had fun. A lot of fun doing it too. And so then we played a couple shows with her on bass. And then we started auditioning like bassists, a bassist. She's a bass player. She can play bass, but we were looking for somebody who is a bassist.
Yeah.
Like full-time bass player, and with the technique and everything, And we found Dan C, another one of our frat brothers.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah. I know Dan.
360 of life, like he's such a sweet kid. He's a great kid. Amazing bass player. And just all of a sudden, within the course of like 3 or 4 weeks, our family just like doubled in size. And between Dan, Emily, Sierra, Silas, Marla, gosh, I hope I'm not forgetting anybody else, but like just the people around us and our friends and family and the support that we've been getting has been so incredible. I just want to keep growing that. I swear to God, not for the sake of financial gain. I just want to see how big we can grow that unit and that family and share that like fun experience with people. We played a show this past Friday night at Big and Tall Recording Studios, where we recorded our upcoming album, and it packed house. And I got to see that wall of faces, and the same feeling I had when I was in 2015 when I was opening for like national touring acts, where I saw a sea of faces and I was like, okay, check, like you've made it, like this, like you've hit this bar, now just keep doing that, I had that same feeling when we were playing a small DIY local show for a 10th of the amount of people, not even a 10th, like a 20th of the amount of people. I had that same feeling of, this is good. Like, check this box. People are here to enjoy this shenanigan with you, to have fun. And, it's a great feeling. It's such a great feeling. The things music can do and the way it can make you feel, and then just being able to share that with people.
I don't think there's any other way to put it. I think like we've been talking about, man, it's the power that music has, and especially with people who live and breathe it in and out, and also seeing something grow from when it was so small before to now doubling in size. And so far with your band. Well, how long have you all been playing together now? Like this whole
This
orchestra of
iteration,
people.
this
Yeah,
iteration,
yeah,
like what, a month? Dan joined us. I could probably I probably could pull up like the texts, like the first text from Dan. It's probably only about a month that it's been Kyle, myself, Sierra, Dan, Emily, as a band, as a 5-piece band. Emily, just this Friday night, played her first show with us on second guitar. That's the first show that SPITSHINE has ever had a second guitar on. So that was a whole new experience for us. So yeah, just about a month is this new iteration of SPITSHINE.
And what do you guys have planned for I guess like the summer now that's coming up?
The rest of the summer, we're going to be playing shows. Not sure if it'll be relevant when this airs, but on June 16th, we're going to be playing at the Delancey. It's an early set though. We're playing at like 7 p.m. So get out of work and come on over to the Delancey. We have a couple more shows coming up in July and August. Stay tuned. We're going to have a lot more information about that soon. Check our Instagram and TikTok and all that good stuff for show information. We don't have a website yet, but we'll get to a website eventually.
It takes time.
It takes time.
It takes time.
It takes time. But yeah, find us at SPITSHINE NYC on Instagram and TikTok. It's NYC because at the time we were all living in NYC. And mind you, before the pandemic, NYC was a place to actually you actually wanted to be in NYC before the pandemic. Before the pandemic, you didn't realize how gross it was and how nasty things are in the city, but everyone wanted to be there. So, it's funny. We were SPITSHINE NJ, and then we were like, oh, no one's going to take us seriously. So we just did SPITSHINE NYC, and we were all living in the city. And then we moved back to NJ, but we never changed any of our handles. So all our handles are still SPITSHINE NYC, like one word, SPITSHINE. Yeah, we're going to play more shows. We're putting out our this is our technically third release. I would say this is our first album. Our first release was an EP. The second one was a demos EP. So this is our first proper album that's coming out June 30th, and that'll be available on all platforms. Of course, we use TuneCore, so anywhere you are in the world, you can access our music.
Sick, dude.
Yeah, we want to just keep playing shows. We are getting into the cycle of release, and the cycle starts anew with writing, refining, recording, marketing, gigging, and then releasing, and then you gig more, and then that cycle is how you breathe and live as a musician. You do all that kind of stuff. So we're now at the, coming upon a new cycle of writing a whole new batch of songs that are going to be really interesting. I'm really excited for this new batch of songs because it's going to be really, really fresh. We have all these new members in the band who we are looking forward to writing with. We are a collaborative band. I would definitely say that Kyle is the primary songwriter, but together, myself and Kyle kind of lead that writing direction, and then that next circle, the next opening is really we want everyone to put their input, and not for nothing, if you have an original idea, just pitch it, just put it down, and we'll run with it to its furthest extremes. When I'm writing, in a writing session with people, I really do like to stretch out ideas and see how extreme we can make them. And whether that means taking an idea that was in 4/4 and putting it in 7/4 or 7/8 or whatever, or just completely changing the key and laying up, putting a counterpoint melody to the melody that we've already changed the key of and rewrote a couple of notes, whatever it is. I want to be able to really stretch out every possible idea in a writing session, because it's you can really be vulnerable in that kind of way. You can make yourself vulnerable.
Oh yeah,
and put yourself out there in a a safe space with your friends and say hey guys, what do you guys think about this idea? But we make it a space where it's a safe space. It's a place for It's a place for exploration. It's a place to express yourself. It's a place to lay it down, because this is your time. This, if you have any bottled. I guess at this point I'm talking to Dan and Emily and Sierra.
Yeah.
I guess at this point, right?
Mhm.
But this also applies to anyone who's writing. Like anyone who's writing, you should use that time to lay it all out and make yourself as vulnerable as possible, and to put it all out there, because the more of yourself that you put out, the more people will positively react and will want to, like, welcome you, and you'll see that people will come to you. You won't have to seek out others. People will seek you out if you put yourself out there to the world and you make yourself vulnerable and open to criticism and open to new ideas and open to changing your ideas and changing your direction, and just being willing to give yourself unconditionally. It's really hard and it's really scary, but if you're looking to write good music and get stuff out of it, that's the best. At least I believe that's the best way to do it, is to put yourself out there wholeheartedly, unconditionally.
Sick. I think so too. I actually think writing music. Actually, it's funny. I've had this conversation with a couple of other musicians that have come here. Writing music is one of the most vulnerable things that you can do, and especially when it hits home to something super personal, and it's not just. Kind of talked about this a little bit before on the podcast too, like kind of just the classical world, how it's a little bit behind. It's like you're not only getting judged on your writing skills, but you're getting judged on, the way you could put together a song, what the content's about, your skills as a musician, of making the actual music, and then also your ability to translate what's in your brain on paper, But with that being said, Ori, we're getting pretty close to the end of the podcast, but I do have a couple more questions for you.
Happily.
So
let's do it like a speed round. Let's try to do a speed round.
Yeah, we'll do a speed round.
Cool.
First question is a common theme between musicians. There's ups and downs to this journey of being musicians, and there's times, man, where you're just at the end of the rope.
Mm-hmm.
If you go look at yourself when you were really at the end of that rope and you're like, I don't know if this is gonna work out, I think I might have to step out and just drop it. It could be a part of my life, but I'll just need to drop it. What advice would you give to yourself?
I would say to myself, like, don't think of it as dropping or quitting. Think of it as just trying something new, trying something else new. Because, like, yeah, I guess you're going to have to do something. If I was looking at myself, I would say to myself, hey, Ori, you have to do something. You have to keep moving. So don't think of it as like you're giving up and you're failing in any kind of way. You have to think of it as a positive experience. Like, hey, you tried this. It didn't work out. Now you can try something completely new, and everything that came before you and all those, everything else just gets washed away. Like you're done with that. Like go do something else. And that's exciting.
Question number 2 of 3.
Mm-hmm.
What are the top 3 things that a band needs to be successful?
I want to say good music, but there's definitely successful bands out there that do not make good music. Mm-hmm. But that's just a subjective thing. To be successful, you need good music. No, in the end of the day, a real success. Like there are bands that are commercially successful or commercially viable. It's up to those people to decide if that's like success in their own kind of way. But I think any musician worth their weight, you know what I mean? Like will say good music first and foremost. The songs have to be good. The music has to be good. It has to be real and it has to mean something. Even if you're making a parody comedy album, the tracks still need to be good to be successful. The next thing is you need good outreach, and I like an easy answer is to just say marketing, but it's more than just marketing. It's outreach. It's you want to be going to shows, talking to people, networking with people, reaching out to people that you normally wouldn't reach out to and say, hey, how are you? What's up? Can we do something together? What are you up to? What does your music sound like? What are you working on? Where are you going this weekend? Like taking an interest in other people's stuff, music or professional life or personal life or whatever, But whatever it is that you're doing, you need to outreach to other people, because it takes, a group of people, it takes a village, it takes a band, it takes a family, to make something greater than just itself, to elevate it to something greater than itself. So outreach is very important. Marketing is such an easy answer, but it's not. It's not the answer I want to give. It's to be successful, you need to be genuinely enjoying yourself and like genuinely showing people that you're having fun. Nobody wants to. You could have the best music in the world, and you could have the best marketing team in the world, and to be reaching out to people all the time and doing all that kind of outreach and everything. But if you're like a grouch, or if you're not enjoying the music that you're playing, or if you're being a jerk to people, or if you're not, if people can see that this is fake to you, or it doesn't mean anything to you, most people will see right through that. And there are people that do see right through other people's acts, and they still kind of go along with it. But most people can see right through somebody's act and know that they're not really like in it for the love of the craft, and they're just in it for the money. And it's so what you need, the third thing, what you need is you need to genuinely love what you do. You need to really like show people that you are having fun, and if they just trust you and take your hand, and you'll invite them in, and we'll all have fun together. The circle of people that I'm holding their hands, it grows wider and wider and wider. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and everyone's in the circle looking at each other with a smile on their face. Everyone's happy, everyone's enjoying themselves, and everyone who's outside of that circle is looking in, going, wow, those people look like they're having a good time. I got all this shit in my life. I got friends and family and bills and job and my manager, and the weather sucked today. Whatever it is, everyone's got their problems. But when they see a group of people enjoying themselves, smiling and enjoying, something that's based around music and song, they'll want to come in. They're gonna, and that's how you become successful. In a capitalist society, you have to find a way of monetizing that success. But monetizing, I would say, would be number four. But good music, good songs, outreach, reaching out and networking, and I don't want to say networking or marketing. I want to say like reaching out to people and talking to people, and just genuine, wholesome fun are the three things.
Third question. Less of a question, but I like to think of this podcast as a time capsule, as a time where me and you get to sit down.
That's so interesting, yeah.
And I don't know when the next time I'm going to see you is. I don't know, the next time, I might see your band or anything. But imagine right now, SPITSHINE is watching this video. What advice, or what do you have to say to SPITSHINE, future SPITSHINE, as something that they need to remember?
Future SPITSHINE. What do I have to say to you guys? If you're watching this in the future, that probably means that you made it, because I hope that you did. And that's awesome. That's cool. I hope it was a fun ride and a fun journey, because ultimately, and it doesn't matter if you did or didn't make it, because ultimately, as long as you were having fun and you guys were sticking together and writing good songs together and showing people that you had a good time, then ultimately it was worth it. All this was worth it. This moment right now is very special, because I got to reconnect with an old friend, a frat brother, a brother of music. And in this moment, I'm happy, and I'm ecstatic to just talk about music and to be able to come here and talk about the band. What would I tell them? Tell future me? I would tell me to be more prepared for podcasts with more soundbitey, have more soundbitey answers to give.
You're fine. We're here talking, man.
Hey, man, just remember to just keep having fun. Like, I just survived a pandemic. Smile on my face. I'm having fun. Everything's good. Like, life is good. I hope it's good when you're watching this.
Sick. Ladies and gentlemen, We're here at the end of the podcast. Ori, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Thanks for having me.
Shout out SPITSHINE. Hopefully we could get the whole band on at some point. That's the goal, right? That's the goal.
That'd be great.
Guys, Ori, please let the people know where they can find you. Any social medias.
So again, my name is Ori Yekutiel. You can find me at hipstergram1 on Instagram. I'm really only using Instagram right now, so find me there. And you can find SPITSHINE across all platforms. Our handle right now is at SPITSHINE NYC, all one word. SPITSHINE is spelled all one word. Find us on them interwebs and enjoy the music. Reach out to us. If you do or don't enjoy, just, let us know. We want to talk. We want to hang out. Come to a show. Come hang out. Let's have fun.
Sick. And all of their links and social medias will be linked in below. And guys, y'all already know the business. Ayoo Podcast on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. And yeah, make sure you subscribe, like the video, leave a comment, whether you like us, whether you think, fuck off. It's a great time.
Right?
Yeah.
Because even if they don't like you and they're commenting and they're like, this sucks, you're still getting engagement.
Help the algorithm. All right, Ori, let's get the fuck out of here, man.
Sweet.
Awesome, bro. Great, man. Great catching up, bro. So much fun.